Hi, I'm Shannon Gale with GCTV, and today we're going to talk about how to set up your field equipment for a basic field shoot. The very first thing that you want to do is to grab your tripod and set that up so it can accept the camera with a tripod shoe. So you want to open up the tripod legs and extend them. You'll notice that the tripod has two sets of legs here. Depending on your needs, you'll extend one or both. And as you'll see in a second, there's also a third option for height through the center column of the tripod. Your goal for the most part is to make sure that when your camera sits on the tripod and is aiming at the subject, that you look like you're at eye level, assuming that you're filming a conversation. For today's purposes, I'm simply going to extend one set of legs, and notice that I chose the bottom set and I stayed with the bottom set. I didn't do the top set and then the bottom set. I extended the bottom legs evenly throughout. And then I want to make sure again that my legs to the tripod are out. And I want the tripod's pan bar, that's what this is called. I want that towards me, because when the camera sits properly on the tripod, the lens is going to be facing out. And so you want the lens facing out and the pan bar facing towards you. Next thing that you want to do is to grab your camera, and if your battery isn't already in there, grab your battery and just insert that into the camera. Most batteries have a little arrow that faces in the direction that the battery should be pushed down, and just push it down until you hear the snap, which says that your battery engaged with your camera. In order to get the camera onto your tripod, you need what's called a tripod shoe. That actually attaches to the camera first, and then the whole thing sits on top of the tripod. Before I attach it to the camera, the one point I do want to make is that all tripods are a little bit different, and depending on the tripod model, you'll see that the tripod head has a shape and the shoe directly matches the shape. This is a hexagonal tripod shoe. We also have tripods that accept square shoes. Here we will make sure that your tripod shoes match your tripod head, but if you're ever looking for gear somewhere else or purchasing that, you always want to make sure that you have your own, that you know what kind of, you get the proper shoe to fit your tripod head. So you'll notice on the bottom of the camera that there is an input for you to screw on your tripod shoe, and all shoes are actually labeled with a little arrow and lens, and that means that when you screw on your tripod shoe, it should orient so that way the arrow and the graphic lens faces the lens of the camera. Because again, there is a proper orientation for which the camera should situate on top of the tripod, so that way when you go to move it around, tilt it up or down, pan it left or right, the lens moves in the proper direction based on what you're having your tripod, your pan bar do. So you want to make sure that the quick release is ready to accept your shoe. On this particular model, you're going to see that the quick release is being held back by this tiny little gold stopper. And you want to start out by getting your tripod to set within the grooves here on your tripod head. And once it's in the grooves, it's going to lightly rest on top of that little gold stopper. At this point, your camera is not actually locked into your tripod, so it's important that until you know that that camera is actually locked into the tripod and is not going to fall off, you keep at least one hand on your camera at all times. With a little light pressure, what should happen is that the stopper gets pressed down and the quick release shoe snaps into place over the other side of your tripod shoe, further pressing it into the grooves that you had previously lined it up in. And now your tripod on this or your camera on this particular model should now be locked into place. And you can confirm that just by pulling up a little bit on the camera. And you can see the camera's not going anywhere. It's firmly locked into the tripod. And now, with the lens facing out and the tripod's pan bar facing in towards me, the camera will move appropriately depending on what I want it to do. I can have it tilt up, tilt down, pan left, or pan right. Now that your tripod is set up and your camera is locked into your tripod, the next thing is that you want to take a look at microphones. You'll see right here that we've already got one type of microphone plugged into this camera, and this is a small shotgun microphone. And this is great for picking up audio at a distance and other types of ambient noise. It's not great for picking up any sort of conversation, but in a pinch, such as a town meeting where there's possibly many people speaking at once and from different locations, it's certainly better than nothing. And you'll see here that it is plugged into inputs that are situated directly on the camera. These 3-pin inputs are called XLR inputs. They're professional audio inputs, and most of our cameras do accept that. This camera is one of 2 that GCTV has that has the XLR audio inputs directly on the camera. Some of our smaller cameras initially only have small 1/8" inputs, and in order to hook up the type of microphones that we have, we need to use something called a line mic adapter, where the 1/8" plug goes into the mic input on the camera, and the result is that then you've got the 2 XLR inputs to accept the types of microphones that we have. So again, this is something that if you were taking out one of our other cameras that didn't have XLR inputs directly on the camera, we would also give you a line mic adapter. That actually just attaches underneath the camera, and then the shoe actually goes underneath the line mic adapter, and all that would sit on top of the tripod, just as I previously showed you how to set that up. So as we change our focus back to this microphone, you can see that the actual XLR audio cord is attached, is part of this microphone. And we can just simply unplug this. The more typical microphone that producers sign out with us is the handheld microphone. And this is really great for doing interview programs and things like that, where there's going to be a lot of dialogue, a lot of back and forth, because what the handheld is really built for is suppressing a lot of the background noise and picking up only what's in front of it. And it can be directional, picking up from different sides, but again, it doesn't really pick up at a distance. So it's really wonderful if, let's say, I had somebody else on camera with me, it would really pick up both of our voices fairly well, provided that we were in close proximity to one another. So to set that up, we want to unwind our cord, our XLR audio cord. And you're going to plug one end of the cord into the microphone. And you're going to plug the other one into the input here onto the camera. And I don't know if you can really pick up the sound of this as you're listening to this video, but what you'll hear when you're setting this up in person is that as you plug these in, you're lining up pins, male to female connections on both the end of the microphone and on the camera, and you know that it's made a connection when you hear a click. If you don't hear the click, you really want to check your connections, because it can look and feel like the cord engaged with the microphone, but if you don't have that click, it's not a secure connection and can result in some sporadic and sound where the sound appears to cut out a lot during the tape. Not something you want, and it's not something that can easily be fixed in editing. Now, most camcorders, when you turn them on, you can actually, they have little meters that tell you whether you're getting an audio signal or not. So that's the visual element of monitoring audio. So you know that you've connected things properly, your mics are turned on. And one note is that with this handheld in particular, and even this little shotgun mic, they're not battery operated. They run off of phantom power. They get their power from the camera once that's turned on. We have other microphones where they are battery operated, and if you were to take out one of those, we would show you what exactly to do with that, how to turn them on and such, but not all microphones require battery operation. But you can check the camera for the audio meters, and we'll show you where to look for that. But at the end of the day, there's nothing more sure than being able to plug in a headset, because the meters will tell you things are working. And this input's just a little too big. It was an adapter for something else. The meters will tell you that the sound is working, and it will give you a good visual as to whether you're too high or too low. But it's really what you hear that matters, because what the meters won't tell you is if that sound that you're picking up is mostly what's directly coming in front of the microphone, or if it's any sort of ambient noise. So whenever possible, always make sure that you have a set of headphones on and plug those in. All the cameras have two ways that you can view your footage. You can either view it through the eyepiece, the viewfinder here, and this really works out very well when you're shooting things outside, because the other option is the LCD display, which is beautiful. It's usually between 2 and 3.5 inches wide, and really gives you a great visual. But being an LCD display, it can be very difficult to look at in the sunlight. There's a lot of glare issues that can occur when shooting outdoors, and so if that's where you're at and having a difficult time seeing it through the bigger display, then you can just close that down and look at things through your eyepiece here, and that will get you away from the glare. So you're going to want to turn your camera on. Open up your viewfinder. And lastly, you're going to want to insert a tape for the cameras that are tape-based. We have a couple tape-based cameras. We also currently have several cameras that, or at least we actually have one camera that is hard drive based. It does not require tape. It's tapeless. But we do have some tape-based cameras, and for those, you're going to open up the tape deck. And this is what a mini DV tape looks like. The tape head faces down and the wheels face into the camera. Notice that this should just slide in very easily. You shouldn't have to force anything in. If it's not going in easily, don't force it. Take it out. Make sure that you're putting it in correctly. Make sure that you're putting it in straight rather than at an angle, because that can cause problems, and it should just slide in. Manually close the inner door With some, you need to wait until that inner door goes down inside the camera before you can close the outer door, and then close the outer door. Now your camera is set up and ready to go. Most cameras, you just hit the red button to record, and on your viewfinder on your screen, what will happen is when the camera is not recording, you're going to see the abbreviation for standby in green, and when you hit the red button, you're going to hear a beep, and the standby is going to turn to REC in red. And you're going to see the camera starts moving and the counter starts counting upwards in terms of time elapsed on the tape. And if you're ready to stop recording again, you just hit the red button and the REC goes back to a green standby. So if all of your connections were set up properly, you should be seeing audio meters on your camera. You should be hearing audio through your headset. Another way to be sure that the audio that you're hearing through your headset is put your headset on and just tap the microphone. Because sometimes if you don't hook up your external microphone appropriately, then you'll really just be hearing sound from the camera's onboard microphone. So you always want to be sure that the sound you're getting is from the camera's external microphone if that's what you set up. If things are set up properly, usually what happens is the internal microphone is overridden, and the external mic takes over, and if everything is shut off, if it has power, or you just plug in a line mic adapter to that 1/8 inch input and nothing is turned on, then you'll just get silence. But that is setting up your basic field shoot. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the GCTV production classroom. And we hope to see you soon and that you'll stop by for some field training and to talk with us about your next project.